I'm Paul Gatling with the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal. We appreciate you joining us today. I'm joined by Ross DeVol. He is a Walton Fellow doing research for the Walton Family Foundation in Bentonville. Ross, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here, Paul. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, now before we get to some of your research, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to Northwest Arkansas from your previous spot at the Milken Institute, you know, the noted think tank in California. What was your interest in uprooting from that life, coming to Bentonville, Arkansas about 9 months ago?
Well, I'd been with the Milken Institute for 20 years as the Chief Research Officer, and I've done a number of different studies around the country and around the world. And I guess it was in the lead up to the 2016 election, a lot of discussions about how the middle of the country was getting left behind and the political outcomes of that and who got elected president. And there were some discussions with members of the Walton family about an opportunity to focus on the heartland. And I thought it was very intriguing. I was born and raised in Ohio. I worked in Omaha, Nebraska early in my career for the Union Pacific Railroad. And my wife's family was originally from Arkansas, from North Little Rock. So my wife was comfortable with the notion. And I just thought, what an amazing opportunity to be thinking about what we could do to improve economic performance in the heartland, the center of the country. And we're really glad to be here.
Right. Well, that was half the battle, was convincing your wife to move from California to Arkansas. She was familiar.
She was familiar, so it was a good thing that my wife's family was from Arkansas. Otherwise, I may not be here today.
That's right. All right. So with the Walton Family Foundation, your research has produced 3 publications, I believe, all focusing on economic indicators that are impacting the heartland. And I want to start, right there, which I assume includes Arkansas, but just, with the word heartland, how are you defining that? What makes up the heartland, and what is shaping that area of the country?
Well, there's different opinions on what makes up the heartland. Some think it's just the Midwest. In recent years, it's been meant to mean more of the center of the country. I would call it kind of the census regions. There are 4 that have central in their name, and so it's 19 or 20 states in the center of the country. The one controversy is Texas part of the heartland or not. And I think that if you put new in front of it, then Texas is, as George Strait sings the song Heartland, and he's from Texas.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right? So it's hard to leave Texas out of it. But essentially to focus on the center of the country and what can we do to improve economic performance here? I mean, there are a number of places doing well. Northwest Arkansas has done very well. But what can we do to increase the value-added activity in this part of the country?
Right, and so put it all together in all of your research thus far. What is your research telling you, and why is it important? Why is it important to Arkansas and the heartland as a whole?
Well, it's important to the heartland because when you look at per capita incomes, they have narrowed relative to other parts of the country, but there still is this gap in per capita incomes. Not as wide here in Northwest Arkansas, but in many what we would call micropolitan, kind of small town places and rural areas.
Right. 10,000 to 50,000.
10,000 to 50,000 basically for micropolitan. And what I wanted to do initially was look at some success stories within the heartland in micropolitan areas. And we identified 5 in particular that did very well and try and identify what were commonalities. And clearly what you see are places that understand that entrepreneurship is important. Creating new companies that can lead to mid-sized companies where job creation really occurs is absolutely essential. And those communities that understand that have done best overall.
Right. Does Northwest Arkansas understand that? We always pride ourselves, this corner of the state, as being an entrepreneurial hub or hot spot, if you will. The University of Arkansas certainly plays into that. Does Northwest Arkansas have some of those same characteristics?
Well, it certainly had some great entrepreneurs. You have 3 companies today who are quite substantial, right. Fortune 500 companies as a result of that. I think where the opportunity lies today, and I've been working with the University of Arkansas in some of these areas, and not only from discussing the importance of them, but also trying to be engaged, the do part of being think and do.
Right. Right.
And I think there are lots more opportunities. If you talk to the business community here, they would like to see greater interaction with the University of Arkansas in terms of sponsoring research that might be directly applicable to them. Also seeing more companies that are spun out of the university research that's licensed locally that can result in new startup companies.
Right.
So it's kind of the technology-based, or some might call it the knowledge-based economy, where Northwest Arkansas still has more opportunities, tremendous growth, whether you look at jobs, income, population, however you want to view it. But there clearly are opportunities to broaden that economic performance.
Right, yeah, not a surprise that U of A is, a pretty big puzzle piece when it comes to economic development. So what's the next step for this research? What do you do with it? How do you leverage what you're finding in both the public sector and the private sector?
Well, given that I work at the Walton Family Foundation, I have been advocating for some potential ideas for investment, and elsewhere as well, at the university. It also is, it's not just about dollars. In the end, that certainly plays a role, but trying to get political leadership to understand, both in Little Rock, how important the flagship university is and how it can be a generator of jobs for residents of the state, not just in the post kind of PhD world, but also in other companies, because you get a lot of spin-offs that generate a multiplier effect on the local economy and help diversify it. That's really what you're trying to do. Northwest Arkansas is very fortunate, and it has these leading Fortune 500 companies, but it needs to be creating more members of the ecosystem so you get a greater mix and people can switch jobs between companies, start new companies. And that's kind of the next element, I think, that's necessary.
Right, and part of that is also increasing the university's profile as a research institution, greater recognition as a research institution.
That's absolutely right, and I have a number of ideas there that I've shared with others and spoken about. One of them is you have someone who's a representative from Northwest Arkansas that chairs the budget committee. Right. Not that you would influence where funds get allocated, but people at the National Institutes of Health, the National Science Foundation, that give out these federal grants, it's important to educate them on the assets that Northwest Arkansas has and on the university. And you're starting to see some of that. The university's gotten several prominent grants in recent months, National Science Foundation funding, and I think there's a growing recognition with the new leadership and Chancellor Steinmetz in that the university has a greater role. It should be part of its mission to be involved in starting new companies, working more closely with the private business sector. And I think there's going to be a number of new initiatives that are started very soon.
Right, and if you show those decision makers and the people who control those purse strings the data, it's hard to argue with the data. All you can do is put it in front of them.
That's exactly right. You got to put it in front of them and make the economic case for why interventions and investments need to be made.
Right, okay. You've lived in Northwest Arkansas now for a few months. What are your interpretations of the region as far as its strengths and weaknesses? What is your take on the area?
Well, in terms of being a really Fortune 500 driven area that has bestowed great economic benefits on the region, I think the next step is more technology-based economic development, whether that's data analytics in the logistics retail chain, a lot of opportunities there, relying upon more the research strengths at the University of Arkansas. Biomedical is an important academic area of strength. I think there's more opportunities for there. Medical devices, there are a number of smaller medical device companies that have started here. It's kind of not on the radar screen yet, but I think with further funding, I think that's entirely possible. I think coming from the outside, especially coming from Southern California, Los Angeles area, it's remarkable to see all the recreational amenities that are here. And you think about the cultural amenities. And I think what a really good indication to me was people saying to me, oh yeah, we've heard about Crystal Bridges. 3 or 4 years ago, people from LA, New York, DC, you name the coast towns, they didn't know about Crystal Bridges. Now they do. And I think there are a lot more opportunities to grow the cultural or maybe the arts-based economy here in Northwest Arkansas, and I think it's likely we'll see a number of more investments there.
Right, and that in turn is a recruiting tool. And you and I had an earlier conversation this year, you had noted how not surprised you were, but how great the region is becoming in recruiting top talent to Northwest Arkansas. Scott Spradley at Chyson Foods, someone you mentioned, a friend of yours. You go back quite a few years.
We do. We do. When he used to work at Intel and then at HP. And so you're seeing a number of people from the coast coming here for different reasons. It's not just Walmart or not just Tyson, not J.B. Hunt any longer.
Right.
There are other reasons for it. Some cases that is it. But you need to reattract that talent.
Right.
And I think it's an easier sell. 10 years ago, if someone would approach me about coming here and doing this work, it would have been a much more difficult sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought my family out, last summer over the 4th of July weekend, and we did a few things, and they really enjoyed it. And I also think my kids found it nice because Dad could spend more time with them. I had an average of an hour-and-a-half commute each way in Southern California, and Dad can be to work and home in 12 minutes now. So that gives me a lot more time to spend with them and my wife as well.
We think the traffic we have here now is bad, but you assure us it's not, right?
I assure you there's much worse traffic in this country than in Northwest Arkansas.
All right. Well, final thought from you. Your term as a fellow was for 1 year, and I think that was in October, I believe. So what are your plans after that tenure is up? Are we still going to see your face in Northwest Arkansas in maybe a yet defined role or something?
I think there's a high probability of that. There's going to be an event called the Heartland Summit that members of the Walton family are heading up. That's going to be in Bentonville in the middle of October. And I'm very hopeful that at that event there'll be an announcement of a new organization that looks at the heartland economy, not only from a research perspective, which I've done throughout my career, but I've also prided myself on the do part. Getting people to implement your research and ideas, what do they mean? And so it could very well be that a center will be focused on Arkansas, but more broadly in the heartland area of the country. There really isn't kind of a think and do tank economic research organization that looks at the center of the country as if it were a country in many respects.
Okay.
And so that is one of the things that I found really exciting about this opportunity.
Okay, a possibility of a think tank in Bentonville, Arkansas. Heard it here first.
You did.
All right, very good. Well, that's we'll leave it there with Ross DeVol. He's a fellow with the Walton Family Foundation. If you want to check out his work, you can find it at the website waltonfamilyfoundation.org. Ross, thanks so much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much, Paul. Enjoyed it.
All right, as usual, we appreciate you tuning in. I'm Paul Gatling. We'll see you next time.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.